Cold open. The sound kicks in before the picture does. A faint hum of electronics, the crackle of static, the click of an old fader being pushed up. Then a voice, low and rough, slides onto the airwaves. "Good evening, or whatever time it is out there now," the man says. "This is Redline, coming to you from the mothership, the one and only 98.6 FM. If you're hearing this, congratulations. You've still got a working radio, and you're not one of them." Yet, the video fades up to match the voice. We're in a cramped, dimly lit radio booth. Everything is cluttered. Stacks of scratched CDs, empty coffee cups, and piles of yellowed playlists spilling across the desk. A dusty on-air light glows weakly above the door. DJ Redline sits hunched over the mic. He's late 40s, stubble covering a jaw that hasn't seen a razor in days. In a red hoodie with the sleeves shoved up past his elbow. His headphones are mismatched, one ear cup taped together with electrical tape. He leans back in his chair, letting the seat creak. "I got no fancy news ticker, no fancy suit, no government-approved script," he says, tapping the mic. "Just me, my board, and this old tower that's still punching a signal through the noise. Which means I can tell you what the pretty-faced anchors can't." A pause. A faint siren wails, somewhere outside the station. He ignores it. They say stay home, stay calm, stay safe. Redline goes on, voice lowering. What they don't say is, the screaming stops long before the running does. And they don't tell you about the smell, or how quiet it gets afterward. He reaches for a coffee cup, takes a sip, winces like it's gone cold. "Anyway," he says, forcing a lighter tone, "I'm here to spin you through the night. Keep your mind off the big bad world outside, or at least give you something human to hear. And if you're out there hiding, moving, whatever, you can call in. Same number as before. I'll be here." He slides in a scratched CD, hits play. A track kicks on. Some dusty blues guitar, warbling faintly through the old speakers. But a few seconds in, there's a glitch. The song stutters, repeats half a chord, then skips again. Redline frowns, checks the board. "Damn thing's been doing that all week," he mutters. "Swear it's not me. Folks.old tech, you know." The glitch happens again. Only this time, there's a sound underneath it. A whisper, too faint to catch. Redline leans closer to his monitor, squinting at the waveform. "Hold up," the whisper repeats. Layered under the guitar. It's only 2 words, but they're sharp enough to cut through the static. Still, listening. Redline sits back in his chair, looks at the mic dot, then at the on-air light. "Cute," he says, forcing a laugh. "Some of you prank callers got way too much free time." He kills the music, dead air swallowing the room. He leans forward again, speaking directly into the mic. "If that's a real listener, you got my attention. Go ahead, make my night creepy." A faint crackle answers him. Then, in a different voice, a man's voice.com, but wrong. "You're not alone in here." Redline freezes. His eyes flick toward the booth door. Outside, in the narrow hallway, a shadow moves past the frosted glass window. The on-air light flickers. Redline's voice stays low, steady, and that's my cue to take a quick break. He hits a switch, the blues track kicks back on, masking the room in noise. But his eyes stay on that hallway window. The shadow passes by again, and this time, it stops. Emergency radio's blues track fades, replaced by the soft hiss of an open mic. Redline leans back toward the console, one hand resting on the fader, the other gripping his coffee cup tight. "All right, folks," he says, masking his unease. "Looks like we got our first brave caller of the night. Line 1, you're on with Redline." A burst of static rattles the speakers. Then a voice comes through, distant, shaky, like the caller is standing too far from the phone. "Hello, is someone there?" "Loud and clear," Redline says, forcing calm into his tone. "Where are you calling from?" The voice stammers, then cuts out entirely. For a moment, all he hears is dead air. Then a second voice cuts in, this one closer to the mic, but with a strange, hollow quality. "Basement," it says plainly. They're upstairs. Redline's grip tightens on the fader. "All right, stay quiet, stay put." "How many?" No answer. Instead, the line fills with a faint tapping sound. Not random, rhythmic, deliberate. You tap in code? Redline asks. The taps stop. And then the original shaky voice returns. But now it's wrong. Distorted, like it's underwater. You can see us, can't you? Redline's jaw tightens. That's not funny. The voice chuckles, a dry, breathless sound that doesn't belong to either caller. The studio phone goes dead. He exhales slowly, clicks over to line 2. All right, next up, line 2, you're live. This time, the voice is clear. A woman, mid-30s, breathing heavily. They got into the shelter. I think I'm the only one left. Please, you have to tell me where to go. Redline sits forward. What's your location? I can't. She cuts off mid. Then, after a pause, is it true that you're alone in there? The hairs on the back of Redline's neck stand up. That's not what I asked you. The line goes silent, then, softly. We're already inside. A loud pop snaps through the headset, making him wince. The on-air light above the booth door flickers again. He flips the music fader up, starting another track. An old punk song this time. But even as the music plays, faint whispers crawl under it. Behind you, closer now. Don't turn around. Redline kills the track and switches to the emergency alert feed, a pre-recorded loop of the city's evacuation orders. Attention, the automated voice drones. Remain indoors. Await further. The loop distorts, the voice stretching unnaturally before blending into something else entirely. Remain still, remain quiet, remain listening. Redline stares at the console. The emergency feed isn't coming from his system anymore. He grabs the station phone and dials a number. Not a caller, but the station's own line to test it. The moment the connection clicks, he hears breathing on the other end. Slow, wet. And then a whisper that chills him to the bone. Don't hang up, Redline. He drops the phone back into its cradle. The thud echoes in the small booth. From the hallway, he hears the faint scrape of shoes against the floor. Not hurried, not stumbling. Pacing. The on-air light flickers again. And this time, it doesn't come back on. The booth plunges into near darkness, lit only by the dim glow of the console. A new voice comes through the monitors, so close it might as well be inside the room. We like your voice. Redline's chair creaks as he slowly turns toward the booth door. There's nothing there, but the whisper comes again. Right behind him. We'll keep it. Audio overlay. The feed doesn't cut. It fractures. Half of Redline's voice still fills the airwaves. If anyone can hear this, but is layered under 3 other voices. The city's official evacuation order, a frantic woman crying for help, and a deep, low tone that has no words at all. Just the weight of something watching. It's not just audio anymore. The video feed on the station's streaming cam begins to skip. For one frame, we see Redline in the booth, leaning into the mic. The next, it's an empty chair, then back again. Except this time, his head is tilted downward, eyes rolled just enough to catch the light. All right, his voice says, though his lips in the video don't move. You can stop now. The overlay of the crying woman spikes suddenly. There at the door, oh God, there. She cuts out, replaced by the evacuation loop again. Remain indoors. Avoid all contact with. The deep tone swells, drowning out the words. Redline flicks a switch on his console, trying to isolate the signal. Instead, the static clears, and a different voice comes through, clear as day. Redline. He freezes, glances toward the camera. That's not possible, he mutters. The voice laughs, a sound that doesn't match any human throat. You keep talking, we keep finding you. The camera feed glitches again, showing the booth from an angle that doesn't exist. From the corner of the ceiling, looking down at Redline's hunched figure. On that feed, there's movement in the shadows behind him. Something tall, leaning through the half-open booth door. But in the real booth, nothing. Redline forces his voice back into the mic, speaking to anyone still tuned in. All right, folks, we're experiencing some interference tonight. That's the nature of pirate radio. You pick up the weird along with the real. The evacuation order overlays again, but the words are wrong this time. Stay in place. Open your doors. Let them in. Redline yanks the fader down, but the voice keeps going. Not through the console, but from the walls. The on-air light blinks once, twice, then stays dark. His headphones buzz. He lifts them to his ear and instantly drops them back onto the desk. From the headphones came his own voice, repeating what he said hours ago at the start of the show. Just me, my board, and this old tower. Only now, the words end differently, and all of us listening together. Static rolls through the booth, loud enough to rattle the cheap glass in the window. The overlapping voices rise again. The woman crying, the emergency alert voice, the deep, wordless tone. Then a fourth joins in, low, breathy, and sharp as broken glass. We're closer now. Redline's chair scrapes against the floor as he turns sharply toward the door. The hallway outside is empty, but in the streaming cam's glitching feed, every frame behind him is filled with movement. Back to the studio. The glitching stops so abruptly, it's disorienting. No static dot, no overlapping voices. Just the hum of the console and the faint hiss of the open mic. Redline exhales like he's been holding his breath for minutes. His hands hover over the controls, unsure where to start. Okay, he mutters. We're killing the feed. Full shutdown. He leans forward, flicking switches in sequence. Transmitter, relay, booster. Each one clicks with a satisfying mechanical thunk. The on-air light dies, but the monitors don't go black. They keep streaming. Him, same camera angle, same booth dot, except he's not moving. He stares at the screen. In the stream feed, Redline is sitting perfectly still, head tilted down, hands folded neatly on the desk. His mouth curls into the faintest smile. Nope, he says aloud, ripping the main power toggle down. The booth lights flicker out. The hum of the electronics fades. Yet the monitors stay lit. The streaming feed keeps rolling, and the version of him in the feed lifts its head. Redline's breathing quickens. He backs away from the console. Not real, not the booth speakers. Crackle to life, running without power. This is Redline, his own voice says, slow and deliberate, broadcasting to all who can hear, and all who are already here. From the hallway beyond the booth, something answers. Not words. A deep, guttural sound, like a laugh that never learned how to be human. He steps toward the door, peering through the narrow glass panel. The hallway is empty, but his reflection in the glass isn't. It grins. The console lights flick back on without him touching anything. The on-air light above the door blazes red. Redline stumbles back into his chair. You can't, this isn't. The mic light turns green. Live. His headphones buzz with the sound of dozens of voices, whispering all at once. Some laugh, some call his name. One just repeats, over and over. Let us in. The stream feed switches angles again, now showing the booth from the far corner, like a security camera. There's movement in the shadows behind him. It steps closer. The frame and Redline, the real one, finally snaps. He slams both fists onto the console. End the damn broadcast. The lights flicker. The hum deepens into a rumble that vibrates through the desk. And from the speakers, his voice comes back one final time. But now, it's layered with something else underneath. We can't stop now. The hallway behind the booth door goes dark, and something knocks. Emergency radio resumes. The on-air light burns like an open wound in the dark booth. But Redline isn't talking anymore. The voice that fills the speakers is not his. Not exactly, it's close. The cadence is his dot, the rasp in the throat, the way certain consonants drag. But each word is warped at the edges, bent like it's being spoken from somewhere deeper than a human chest. This is Redline. It says, slow, deliberate, bringing you the last sound you will ever hear. Static swells under the words, carrying faint noises. Footsteps on tile, a door creaking open, wet breathing. Redline rips the headphones from his head and throws them onto the desk. No, that's not me. The voice keeps going. We have reached your homes. We have entered your rooms. You have left your windows open. Another sound creeps into the background, a rhythmic knocking, like someone tapping on glass. It's faint but constant, 3 knocks at a time. Redline lunges for the console, slamming faders down, flipping switches. Nothing changes. The broadcast keeps running. The deep voice shifts slightly, almost conversational now. We're all together on the air tonight. No more hiding. No more static between us. The knocking grows louder, more erratic, like hands. Many hands, drumming on the windows of the station. Redline's eyes dart toward the booth door. A shadow passes across the frosted glass. Tall, thin, its head bent at an unnatural angle. The voice on the speakers pauses, as if listening. Then, with a note of delight, they're here. The emergency tone kicks in suddenly, loud and sharp, blaring over the deep voice. But it's not the standard alert. The tone stutters, reverses, speeds up, slows down, almost like it's laughing. Then a new voice overlays it. Female, clear, and calm. If you are hearing this, stop listening. Turn it off, leave the room. Do not, she cuts off in a wet gasp, like someone yanked the air out of her lungs. The deep voice returns. No one's leaving. Redline backs away from the console, his chest heaving. The broadcast begins looping now. Not the emergency alert, not music, but the sound of breathing. Slow, long, deliberate, and under that breath, a whisper. Open the door, Redline. The knocking stops. Silence fills the hallway. He stands frozen, every muscle tight, waiting for something to move. Then, a single, sharp knock, right beside his ear. Final moments, single knock hangs in the air like it's still echoing. Redline doesn't move. His eyes are locked on the booth door, on that narrow panel of frosted glass. Something moves on the other side slowly. A shadow drifts into view. Tall, narrow shoulders, head bowed. Its outline shivers in the distorted glass, like it's barely holding its shape. The mic in front of Redline is still live. Every shallow breath he takes goes out over the airwaves. The shadow tilts its head. So does Redline. They're mirroring each other. The voice in the monitors returns. Not his voice anymore, not fully human. You've been talking all night now. It's our turn. The on-air light blazes brighter than before, flooding the booth in red. The console lights pulse in sync with the sound of a heartbeat. Not his. The knocking starts again. Not on the booth door this time. From behind him, Redline spins. The wall behind his chair, solid cinder block, now has a door. Not a real door, just the shape of one, outlined in glitching static. From inside the static, faint faces press against the surface. Pale, flickering mouths open in silent screams. The voices on the air multiply, each one speaking a fragment of something larger. Open it, let us in. It's already open. You've been listening. The static door pulses with each phrase. Redline backs toward the real booth door. The shadow on the other side is gone. He reaches for the handle. The moment his fingers touch the cold metal, the feed on the streaming monitors shifts, showing him, standing exactly as he is now, hand on the door. Only in the feed, the door is already open, and something is leaning through it. He jerks his hand back. The booth speakers emit a piercing tone, rising higher until it shatters into a flood of whispers. You can't turn us off. The static door behind him bursts open. Not with light, not with air, but with sound. A wall of voices, screaming, laughing, gasping, all layered together, floods the room. The on-air light flickers wildly. The booth cam tilts on its own, catching a final glimpse of Redline as the shadows pour into the room. They're not bodies, they're outlines. Human shapes made of nothing but black noise, glitching with every movement. One reaches the mic, presses its formless mouth to it, and whispers. We are the broadcast. The stream feed freezes on Redline's face. His mouth is open, but no sound comes out. His eyes are wide, not with fear, but recognition. Then the image burns to white. A single line of text fades in over the empty screen. 98.6 FM signal, LOST, unable to terminate transmission. The emergency tone plays one final time, but it's no longer a tone. It's breathing, and under it, so faint you could mistake it for static. We'll be back after the break. The signal cuts,